Do you like dragons? I'm just kidding. That's not the intro. I mean, unless. The Abyss floors are here now, and besides being immune to dots and also restricting the number of units that you can bring into them, they're also just generally harder. So today I'm bringing you a free-to-play starter guide for the Dragon's Abyss dungeon. A couple of things to keep in mind as we go along. First things first, every single one of your units should have artifacts on them. That extra lump sum of stats is going to help you with your consistency when you go into the dungeon. For your damage dealers, you'll want to look for additional crit damage in the substats. And second, basically every single permutation of these teams is going to have Vert in it. By this point, if you've already cleared through B10, then you already know Vert and you've probably already professed your love to him too. So I'm not going to spend too much time going over him here today. Just know that he's not going anywhere other than with you into the dungeons. Just like for the Giants Abyss dungeon guide, I'm going to go over the units that we're eventually going to use to create a team. So let's start with the damage dealers. Veramos the Dark Ifrit is just so good. He is finally like the best version of himself, and it only took a few buffs for him to get there. We're looking for HP scaling damage, and he's got that in spades on his skill 2. He also has a conditional stun on that very same skill, so that'll help a ton on your way up to the boss. And if it doesn't stun, it'll reduce the attack bars of all enemies. So one way or another, you're getting some crowd control, be it either hard or soft. And of course, we can't forget his passive that auto cleanses debuffs whenever he takes a turn. So that means that he can remove both the dots that are applied at the boss and also the defense breaks that are applied by the crystals on the way up. You can build him on Violent, or you could go for Rage and do speed crit damage attack or speed crit damage HP on your 2, 4, 6 slots. Next on the list is Spectra, who is preferably 2-aid. Actually, that's mandatory. It's my video, you gotta do it. We're talking about 2 of his skills, specifically skill 2 and skill 3. The second one just straight up does what we're looking for. It does max HP scaling damage on a single target. And the third skill is a little bit more AoE control to help you with the run. It's going to try to reduce enemy attack bars by 30% on a coin flip. Then it's also going to try to apply a 2-turn slow and attack break on every one of them. As far as runes go, you should aim to put them on Rage with attack, crit damage, HP on your 2, 4, and 6 slots, especially if you're having a hard time surviving. That 6-slot HP could really come in handy. Though if you're not having that issue, then you could of course do attack, crit damage, attack. Notably, one of the harder things to do is to slow this boy down. Spectra has the highest base speed in the game at 126, so getting him to move after your defense breaker is actually pretty challenging. And that defense breaker is probably gonna be Lauren, but we'll get to that later. Oh, while we're in the neighborhood, you can also use Shaman, Spectra's light brother. This unit is not exactly farmable, but I figured I'd throw him in considering that we're talking about Spectra, and we did just have a Choose Your Own LD Nat 3 event. Plus, he has the exact same skill 2 as Spectra. Exact same. But he can also heal the team on his skill 1, so again, helping with survivability. It should be noted that I do actually prefer him in tandem with Spectra rather than solo, specifically because he doesn't have that third skill that can add some AoE control to the team. But he's still great, and a lot of people are using him in these Abyss dungeons. So if you have one, it might be worth running him through the Dimension Hole a few times too, because he's also a great damage dealer against dark units. That's not what we're talking about today, but he is. Trust me. Rune him similarly to how you runed your Spectra, though he's gonna need a little bit more speed than Spectra. Next is Second Awakened Crow, who ironically is actually not your primary damage dealer. Because he doesn't have any max HP scaling damage, he's predominantly just here for the brand. And once he does apply it, that means that Veramos and Spectra can have extra beefy hits. And to make sure that he can actually land it most of the time, that means you're gonna wanna splash some accuracy in when you're runing this good dog. I didn't find that I had to make any big changes in order to get Crow to function properly in Dragons compared to Giants, but you may want to try to find a little bit more accuracy if he's sub 40%. I did also want to touch briefly on Verd the Fire Vampire. He's ruined on damage for this team, so he's also on Rage, attack, crit damage, attack with 100% crit rate to make sure you're getting all of that good attack bar increasing effect. You can give up a little speed to get him on this damage build too. Aim for around 40 to 50 additional. The end goal is that he doesn't get cut by the boss, because that can be your one downfall. At the end of this, being on attack, crit damage, attack means that he's going to be on the squishier side, so one attack from the boss could be the difference between a victory and a defeated. Before we leave the damage dealers section, I did just want to briefly touch on Sigmaris the Water Phoenix. Sigmaris is still relevant because of the max HP scaling damage that's on skill 2 and skill 3. Sig also offers some crowd control that again is going to help you make your way to the boss so you don't get sniped by those dang crystals. Just know note that the payoff for that max HP scaling damage I find to be a little bit less than Veramos's damage scaling on skill 2. So temper your expectations, but I find that Sig is still usable in this dungeon. We're going to support units now. Lauren the Light Cowgirl is back. She's too dangerous to use in Giants, so she moved over here. She needs to move ahead of your damage dealers. Now, I'm about to recommend that you use a team that looks like Verd, Lauren, Crow, Spectra, Veramos. And that means that she needs to be so fast that she moves ahead of all of them. Use whatever it takes to get you there, along with about 60% accuracy. And remember that you can always find more accuracy in the substats of your artifacts if you're having trouble getting her past that threshold. For her runes, she can be on Violent, so that way she can proc into getting her skill 2 back a little bit faster, but just keep in mind that that also means that she can proc into using her skill 2 when she shouldn't. Alternatively, you can put her on Swift with Fight or Shield, just so that way she can contribute a little extra attack or HP to the team. Next is Lapis. What? The farmer you've been sleeping on? Dang Skippy. Ugh, I did not like that line as I said it. Am I gonna do anything about it? Probably not. Lapis has been making waves recently because of the attack bar reduction and absorption in her kit, along with the random but surprisingly clutch defense break on skill 2. If you plan on using Lapis in your comp, you can do speed HP accuracy or speed HP for your build. She's not going to be the one that's heavily contributing damage. She's another setup unit, and she's also trying to make sure that your team stays alive when it gets to the boss. Don't expect your runs to go super fast with her, but she is a fun inclusion. So now that we've talked about the units that are going to make up the team, let's actually do a deeper dive into the team at hand. So the team I'm recommending for this starter guide is going to be Verd, Lauren, Spectra, Crow, and Veramos. If we're looking at turn order, Lauren again moves first. You want her to apply defense break, or if you're up against the boss and he's got immunity, you want her to be able to strip that immunity and apply defense break. Her whole job is to set up damage for the team. Following that note, Crow is moving next. Crow's great because there's two things that he can do on his turn. He can either set up a brand or reapply defense break if Lauren missed. I suppose he could also use skill 2, in which case we're very happy for that. There's a lot of valuable skill 1s in this team. After Crow, your two big damage units are going, Veramos and Spectra. We just need them both to use their skill 2s. That's all we're looking for. Finally, Verd, to help boost the team back up again and push them forward in the turn order. Now let's look at some honorable mentions. So if you happen to have these units, you could do something a little bit spicy. One of my favorite teams to play around with is Deva and Martina. Notably, you can use Deva in isolation, but it's way less safe, like significantly less safe. So much so that I won't recommend it. Martina is the thing that makes this strategy perfect. Martina is the one that is stealing buffs from the opponent as she's attacking. That means you don't even have to think about stripping that immunity off the boss, she's just gonna do it. And Deva provides max HP scaling damage. That's right, that is in her passive. Her passive is it's a book, but it's in there. And the last one that I'll touch on today is the Water Demon. We saw him in the Giant's Abyss, but he's back here. But he has even more value here than he had in Giant's Abyss, in my opinion. He still offers big ignore defense damage on skill 2, huge damage on skill 1, and he'll revive once he's taken out. But that extra value comes from the fact that when he revives with half HP, all of the crystals are going to auto-target him instead of your fragile units. So there we go, that's the free-to-play starter guide for Dragon's Abyss. If I didn't mention a unit that you've been using, I'd love to hear about your team comp in a comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see y'all right back here next time for another video. Bye-bye.